Decorating for Christmas was always big in our house. And of course the tree was the main focal point in the sitting room. But there was usually some Christmas in every room of the house. But for the Christmas tree itself, different years, different brothers would go out with my mom and my dad and myself. Sometimes we'd go to a place where you could cut down the tree you like. Sometimes we would go to a tree lot. It just depended on the year, really. But we'd always make sure we got one that went all the way to the ceiling, because we always wanted it big enough that we had to move some furniture out of the sitting room to make room for the tree. Usually my brother Terrence was the one who was in charge of putting the lights on, because the lights went first. And those were the days where the bulbs were bigger than the nice little strings that they are now. So usually there would be an afternoon of strings of lights on the floor, screwing and unscrewing the bulbs to make sure that they were all able to shine brightly on the tree. So once Terrence had put up all the lights themselves, then came the ornaments. And we had a very strict order of the largest at the bottom, middle ones were the medium-sized one, and small ones up at the top. That was, my mom thought that really made the symmetry of the tree, and that's what she liked.
So traditionally before Christmas you do a lot of biscuits, really a load of lovely different biscuits, and you eat them on the Advent Sundays or at Christmas, and you do the Stollen, and that would be more my mum. We would do little stars, we had little colored paper where we folded stars. I think nowadays everything is called origami, but it was a very traditional German thing to make stars from transparent colored paper or from straw. You would fold them up, you see them in the shops here sometimes. So our Christmas tree would be decorated with baubles and homemade things as well. Very different to Ireland. I remember when I came to Ireland I was quite shocked in the beginning, sorry to say so, but the Christmas trees here are a little bit like the music, very jolly, very bright. Every colour under the sun had to be on the Christmas tree, and the lights were blinking and flashing and making music, and in Germany everything was a little bit more sedate. So the Christmas tree, years ago it would have been very colourful, but ours was generally kept in one colour, either in gold or in red.
Generally there were probably a mix of glass ball kind of ornaments, but then also any of the handmade ones that the kids had made along the years. Those were always on the tree, always. And my dad was big on tinsel, so little, it's kind of like little strings of aluminum, kind of thing. And so he would save that till the end and would throw that very few strings at a time, just so it would shimmer on the tree. And at the top we had a big star, and generally I was the one to put the star on the tree because I was the youngest. So, then all of the stockings that we had were hung on the fireplace along the mantle for the whole month, waiting. And those had been made for us by a daughter-in-law. So they all had our names embroidered on them, and we knew whose was whose. And then as the family grew, then we had stockings for sisters-in-laws and brothers-in-laws and grandchildren and all of that. So it just kept getting bigger and bigger.
The Christmas markets, they traditionally start on the 1st of December and they go as far as Christmas. And they are beautiful, and I really, really loved going through them. So every part of my big hometown, like it's very big, it's a big city, but every little small corner would have a little Christmas market, and it's very, very cozy. Like you would have sawdust on the road, and you have little timber huts, and beautiful crafts get sold, and beautiful food gets sold, and it's actually not expensive either. The crafts are a little bit pricier, but you can get very reasonable mulled wine and nice food and all that. So you could spend the whole day going from craft market to craft market and like eat little snacks and all that, and that was always really enjoyable, especially as kids. Like there were certain things you only get at Christmas, and that was really nice. Like it was a really special treat to go to them.
We were each given $5 to spend on our other 5 siblings, our parents and grandparents, and you had to make that stretch as a child. So But we would usually take a day and go to a little shopping, well, now it would be called a shopping mall, but a place that had a lot of little shops in it. And we would, gather there and then go our different ways to buy different things. And I remember at age 7, one of the things that I found from my mother that she treasured until I cleaned out her dresser at the end of her life were actually little angel soaps in a little box, just 3 little carved angel soaps. And so that would have been my gift to her that year. But just little things that we knew would mean something to each other. The boys usually chose that time to either buy cans of soda or chocolate bars, because those were things we didn't really have during much of the year. So those were big treats for us. And then at the end, when we were all done with our shopping, my mom would bring us to the little restaurant that was in there, and we would have sandwiches and crisps and soda, and that was our festive time together to do that. And so that was always fun.
And I'm looking back at some of my Christmas memories back in the parish of Timoleague. I remember when I was quite young, it was customary for my parents to go into town to do the big shopping, as it were, for Christmas. In those days, my parents would get what was called Christmas boxes in many of the shops that they shopped in during the year. And I would have to say that the shopkeepers were very, very decent in handing out what they called a Christmas box. And they would arrive home in a pony and cart, I should say, and we would be at home waiting, the family, 5 boys and 1 girl. My sister Joan was the oldest of the family, and then we had 5 boys. Sadly, 3 of the boys have passed away. There are 3 of us left now. Well, we would be all excitement to see what was in the cart and for ourselves for Christmas. Of course, the Santa Claus presents would be well hidden. We wouldn't see or hear of them until Christmas morning.
The 6th of December, we would have St. Nicholas coming. So St. Nicholas was a kind of a Santa Clausy figure, but more, I don't know, you never see him. You just had to put out your polished boot into the windowsill, or your clean shoe, but we took boots because you fit more into it. So you had to clean your boot, preferably a welly or something, or a nice winter boot, put them into your windowsill, and they were filled with sweets if you were good. If you weren't good, you would have coal or a few sticks in there. So of course we were lucky, we always had sweets in there. And I suppose that goes back to the Bishop of Myra, who was the Santa Claus in the original Santa Claus, because he used to give the poor children in Myra, which used to be in Turkey, presents through the open window. He would give them presents, and I suppose maybe my father heard of that story, because he was always into history, into old stories and all that. But all the same, we didn't have Santa Claus in our family. My father maintained there is no such thing as Santa Claus. Maybe he wanted to get the benefit of that he bought the presents. So anyway, we had no Santa Claus. We would have, he would decorate the tree, and then my parents and me and my sister, we would go for a walk, and when we came back, the presents were all there ready on the table, and there was definitely no Santa coming in our household.
And Christmas in Ireland is very different to Christmas in Australia. And so in Christmas in Australia, it's really, really hot. It's so, so hot. In fact, we're always looking to go to the beach and, and find a swimming pool. So when we get together with our family, it's always really nice when someone has a swimming pool for Christmas Day. And because Christmas is so hot, it's always really difficult to try and get someone to be Santa Claus. And so my brothers are always saying, oh, that's my turn, it's your turn this year to be Santa Claus. So because we're a big family, someone would be, Santa Claus would come with a sack, and all the young children would get Christmas presents from Santa Claus. And of course we're all in t-shirts and in swimming costume usually, and and really, really very warm, very warm. So it's lovely to be wrapped up for Christmas in Ireland. I love it. I love it.
We never missed midnight mass in Mount Melleray. And the reception we got out there as well. We got a terrific reception from Brother Boniface with the tea and the brack, and of course we always brought out a few gifts to them and a little drop of the crater hidden in a little bag. And we gave them whatever they liked for the Christmas dinner the day after. We brought loads of stuff out there. We had terrific food at night, but the mass was just glorious there. And the crowds. And as the priest got more scarce, we ended up in the monks' seats, which we were so proud of, and we had a great view from there. And the new abbot is very much in charge of the choir now, and he's a terrific singer. He's fantastic. And as well as that, now I'd say, I don't know if there's midnight mass this year, there hasn't been for 2 years, but if they're there, I'd say there was a new, he was a brother, I think, and he's ordained a priest just a few months ago. So I'd be hoping I'd meet him this Christmas, but I don't know, will it ever happen?
I have very little. I have a lot of memories of hunting, but not of hunting the wren very much. I very little, but I can remember the lads coming to the door. I can remember my brothers going hunting, going out with the wren on St. Stephen's Day. I was a non-singer and I didn't fancy going, but I can remember the neighbours' children coming and singing the wren, the wren, the wren, the king of our birds. Oh, St. Stephen's Day got caught in the furs. That was it, and it was thrilling. They would all come and they would all get money. When I say all, there might be maybe 4 groups come and they would get money, and my own brothers, the bigger lads, they would go to other houses and do the same thing. So it was a great practice. It's a pity it's gone.
I remember very well, we sometimes used to go to the cinema for the Advent Sundays. We always had a bit of a special treat, like we always had to go for a walk, but occasionally we would go to the cinema and we saw Pippi Longstocking, which was my absolute favourite. I always wanted to be a pirate because of that when I was very young. I loved that, the whole story of Pippi Longstocking. Or you would see 101 Dalmatians and all that. So it was very nice to do something special on the Sundays before Christmas and something with your family as well.
So my parents were migrants. They came from Egypt with Maltese background, and they moved to Australia after the Second World War. And so things in Australia were quite different for them. And one Christmas, my dad tells me the story, one Christmas my brothers were in church, and it was Christmas morning, and they were only new in the country, and the boys were mucking up a bit, and my dad was going, "Buster, Buster, Buster," and this woman in front of, an Australian woman in front, turned around and gave Dad the most incredible stare and said, "Stop that." And Dad's going, "Shiz, what have I done? What have I done?" Anyway, because the boys kept mucking around, and you'd be going, "Buster, Buster." Anyway, so this woman in the end turned around again, and she was really fuming this time. Anyway, so Dad just shut up because he thought, Jesus, whatever I'm saying, it's wrong. So anyway, after Mass, she collared him after Mass and said, "Why were you swearing?" And she thought he was saying, "Bastard, bastard, bastard." But in fact, she was saying, "Basta, basta" in Italian, and which is "be quiet, be quiet." Anyway, that woman then became the best of friends with my mum and dad and the whole family. And that was a very early Christmas morning in around 1951, 52, something like that. And then the other thing, in Australia, not all families get together, and in our particular family, we would get together with mum and dad and the grandchildren and have cold dinners. Everybody brings a plate of cold food and cold desserts, a cold turkey, cold ham, nothing warm. And because you don't want to have a hot kitchen. And often people would buy the ham, they wouldn't even cook it. And you'd have, being a migrant family, Italian, Maltese background, we'd have all the Italian-y kind of desserts and very delicious sort of food. Yeah, but anyway, very different to Ireland.
After our Mass and our food in Mount Melleray, the snow came. All the previous people who were gone home from Mass had made it down over the Knockmail Downs into Newcastle. we got caught in a bad bend, and here we were, marooned on top of the Knockmeal Downs at about 2 in the morning. We were there for several hours, but we were very lucky. A certain pub, I suppose they didn't close too early, and a certain person was coming home from the pub and saw our lights on. We had that and the phones. If they ran out, we were finished. We rang the AA, we rang Matty McGrath, we rang everyone. No one could come up. But this good man saw us, saw the lights, walked up along the ditch the whole way and took us out of the car, left the car there, walked us down up on the ditch to his own car and drove us home to Ardfinnan. Wouldn't take a penny for it. The following day, took us back out to the mountain to collect our car. And Shin in Mount Melleray, for us, we haven't been there since, and I hope to God we get there again, because I really love Mass in Mount Melleray, especially the Christmas Masses.
When I was a very little girl, we lived on a lovely little farm, 4 acres, right outside of town. And my father wasn't a farmer, but he had been a farmer when he was young. And we had lovely Christmases because he loved Christmas, and we always had great Christmases. I had a brother that was 12 years younger than I was, and right down the street from the farm, there was a very tiny little house, 2 rooms with a little loft, and a family of 5 lived in the house, and they had a child that was about the same age as my younger brother. And they were very, very poor. They had no running water. I don't know where they all even fit in the house, because one was about my age, about 12, and one was about a little bit younger, and then there was the younger one. And so I don't know how it came about, but my mother, I think, decided that it wasn't proper for my little brother to have a wonderful Christmas when that little boy wasn't probably going to have any Christmas. And so every year on Christmas Eve day, my mother would take us to the shopping mall, and we would all go buy presents for the little boy. We bought clothes, and we bought toys, and we bought anything they would like, and we would find a Christmas tree that was still available for sale. And the mother of the house knew that we were going to do this, so she was busy making paper chains and stringing popcorn and cranberries, and just things that she could figure out that wouldn't cost her a lot of money to decorate the tree with. And I suppose we brought some decorations ourselves. And then we would wait until he went to sleep, and then she would come knock on our door and say that he was asleep. And I can still remember going up with this great big box full of things, and my brother dragging the Christmas tree. And then we went to the little tiny living room, and we put the Christmas tree in, and she put all the decorations on, and we had all the presents under the tree. I remember doing it every year, and I remember thinking we always had such wonderful Christmases, but that was probably one of the memories that I remember the most in my old age, because it just was a wonderful feeling of being able to give that. And one Christmas, we got a wonderful surprise as a result of all that. There was a knock at our back door, and my mother went out, and there was this little package wrapped up in gray tissue paper, I think. And it had my brother's name on it, and she brought it in and opened it up, and sure enough, inside reminded me of the coat of many colors, because there was this jumper that this woman had knitted for my brother. But she obviously had knitted it out of all the little scraps or whatever, whether she pulled clothes apart, or I don't know where she got the wool from, but it was just every color you could think of. And it was just a nice little crew neck jumper that he wore a lot. And it just meant so much. And it was her way, I guess, of thanking. But it's just so nice to have those kind of experiences at Christmas that aren't just all tinsel and splash. And that was one of my best Christmas memories.
I was born about 10,000 years ago in Belmullet in the county of Mayo. It was I who chased the Germans was in power. preachy sermon. If I knew a bigger liar, I'd tell you so. Singing right, fall tooralady, tooralay. There is no one who can tell a lie like me. You may search until you're tired, you won't find a bigger liar. I've been lying since the dawn of history. I saw Eve pick an apple off a tree. She came over and she offered it to me. But I said to her, now madam, go try your luck with Adam. I'm going home to have some fish and chips for tea, singing right, fall tooralady, tooralay. There is no one who can tell a lie like me. You may search until you're tired, you won't find a bigger liar. I've been lying since the dawn of history. It was during World War II I met them all. There was Roosevelt and Churchill in the Dáil. Well, it was then I nearly fainted. I was having my house painted. There was Hitler hanging paper in the hall, singing right, fall tooralady, tooralay. There is no one who can tell a lie like me. You may search until you're tired, you won't find a bigger liar. I've been lying since the dawn of history.
The old violin. 'Twas better than scarred, and the auctioneer thought it scarcely worth his while to ask a price for the old violin, but he held it up with a smile. What am I bid, good people, he cried, who'll start the bidding for me? $1, who'll make it $2? $2, who'll make it $3? $3, who'll make it $4? But from a room far back there came a grey-bearded man, and wiping the dust off the old violin and tightening up the strings, he played a melody pure and sweet as the angels sing. Now the people cheered, and the auctioneer, with a voice that was loud and gay, said, what am I bid for the old violin? And he held it up by the bow. $1,000, who'll make it $2? $2,000, who'll make it $3? $3,000 once, $3,000 twice, and going and gone, said he. And the people cheered and did not quite understand what changed its worth. 'Twas the touch of the master's hand. A mess of pottage, a glass of wine, a game Henny's carries on. He is going once, he is going twice, he is going and almost gone. But the master comes, and the foolish crowd can never quite understand the worth of a soul and the change that is wrought by the touch of the master's hand.
I crept in to say good night, and I saw my child in prayer. Please give me some scarlet ribbons for my hair. Oh, the town was dark and shuttered. Oh, the streets were closed and bare. In our town there were no ribbons, scarlet ribbons for her hair. Oh, the night my heart was aching, long before the dawn was breaking. I walked in, and on her bed, in gay profusion everywhere, scarlet ribbons, lovely ribbons, scarlet ribbons for her hair. If I live to be 100, I will never know from where came those ribbons, scarlet ribbons, scarlet ribbons for her.